Okay, that's funny you mentioned that you had to change your profile to a white man because when I first started getting on Airbnb, I literally had to put like a suit and tie on, like a bow tie, and anytime I sent a message, I'd be like, I'm a software engineer out of Boston coming on a business trip because otherwise, I look kind of crazy. So people would be denying my stuff all the time. Um, Queen, I'm gonna let you ask your question in one second. Um, Yeah, so on the same thing too, once I had a summertime is big for Turo, so I had like in my I think like a year and a half in, I had a $15,000 month. After I paid all my bills, rent, all that stuff like that, I had like $10,000. And like I'm by no means rich, but when you just got $10,000 to play with like that, like I ain't never had money like that. So I was just like, fuck it, I'm never going back to work again. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of surreal. And I was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad at that time. My birthday was coming up in 2 months, and I always wanted a Porsche Panamera. And he always was like, "Listen, don't buy your toys. Get investments and have them pay for your toys." So that's what I did to get my Porsche. So if I buy one Toyota Yaris, I think my Porsche was like $40,000 or something like that, and I think the monthly payment was like 800. So instead of me, paying 40,000 for that car, I went and I bought two Toyota Yaris's, which both cost me about 4 grand each, so $8,000. And each one of those cars would make me at least $500 a month. So basically, my two Toyota Yaris's that cost me 8 grand paid for my Porsche. So my investment paid for my toy. You know what I mean? So I essentially my $40,000 car really only cost me 8,000, even though I got to spend time, effort, and energy on that. So that's when I kind of decided, like, I'm straight. You know what I mean? I'm never going back. Queen, you want to ask a question? I know you were raising your hand, crazy. For Zoe?
Yeah. No, he actually answered the question because I was trying to figure out like how was he leasing these apartments all at once, and then he like went into the corporate housing.
To backtrack on that, like it took some time for me to learn about corporate housing, so I did it a different way. Here in Texas, you can have as many apartments under your name as you want, as long as you can prove you can pay for them. So, how I started off was, I would just tell, basic long story short, I would go, I'm from the hood, so I would just tell people from the hood, like, hey, I got $250 for you if you put your name on this paper for me. I don't need no money from you, I just need your information. And that was it. And that's how I kind of got the ball rolling with that. So I just ran that play like 3 or 4 times with different people. Sometimes I paid a woman one time $250. She put 5 different places in her name for me. So that's how I started before I learned about corporate housing. So I took that route initially. Mind you, I've been doing this going on 5 years now, so it took me some time to learn about all of this. So maybe I learned about corporate housing going on like my 3rd year, but the first 2 years I was doing it that way. I was just paying people to put the places in the name for me.
Okay. So I kind of ran into a situation like that too. Because at one point I had 22 cars. I think I had like 17 now. And every once in a while, a snowstorm or something like that would happen. And I knew most of my neighbors, but you know how we are sometimes. We think like the spots in front of your house is for your car, even though it's a public street. So I think I had one of the neighbors. I don't know who it was, but basically like called the city or something like that. Say I was running like this illegal business or some shit like that in front of my house or whatever with the cars or whatever. And they like sent me a notice or whatever. So I literally took it. I live on a side street and I just took the cars and I moved them on the main street. So anytime there was too many cars on the street, like if I had 8, I'd go move 3, 4, or 5 of them on the main street, so nobody really knew who it was because my cars are kind of noticeable. I mean, they're all the exact same car, just different colors. So I just took them and moved them on the main street, and I didn't really have to worry about that anymore. But for the most part, unless it's like I think January gets slow, February, but for the most part, the cars are just always moving. So I don't really have a problem. You know what I mean? And once I moved the lock boxes from the gate of my house, you didn't see a whole bunch of people always congregating there. You know what I mean? So that was a good thing too, because you get into some kind of crazy situations.